You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
That is a Joe fact.
No, the Joe facts are coming up after the theme song.
Is it not a fact, or did you not just say it?
It's both.
Then it's a Joe fact.
Okay. Joe facts! Today we're going to be talking about the fourth serial of the 11th season of Doctor Who, The Monster of Peladon, which consists of 6 episodes that aired from March 23rd, 1974 to April 27th, 1974. Joe Facts! And I'd like to give a special shout out to Matt Golden of mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com for getting us these episodes.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
You are shiny. And today we have returning guest, Peladon/Ice Warrior expert, Ashley Raburn.
Yay! Everyone's clapping.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I always enjoy talking about the Ice Warriors, and I always enjoy talking about the Peladon stories. Unfortunately, this is the last one that was on TV, but it's always great to be here.
Yeah, I read that this is the last, Ice Warrior story until, New Who.
Televised Ice Warrior story. There's plenty of great spin-off Ice Warrior stories out there.
So, novels and...
novels, audios, comics.
We'll have to get a Big Finish list from you.
Yeah. And you can still see the archives of The Oncoming Storm. It's still there, so all of those that we talked about are all still there as well.
So what's the current status of all that?
Yeah, so The Oncoming Storm, we went for 6 years, just about 6 years, and we went through all the Virgin New Adventures, and I think we were all ready for a break. It's one thing to listen to the audios, which wasn't that big of a deal, but when you're reading at that pace, a lot of people are much better readers than I am, but I think we were all just beginning to need a break. We may be back. We've already been talking about, there's some great things coming out which we could talk about. So, there's always the chance that we'll come back, but for right now, we're taking a little break. I think we're all missing it a little bit, so it may be sooner rather than later, but, for now, it's been nice to just not have to do that. Believe it or not. This is actually really fun. This is the first podcast that I've done since we ended that, so,
I'm happy to have dragged you back.
It's really been good to consume Doctor Who again for a little bit to talk about it.
What would a really long Big Finish Ice Warrior miniseries sort of deal, would that drag you back out of retirement?
Oh man, if they Dalek Empire is one of my favorite things that Big Finish did, and it didn't have the Doctor in it. It was just kind of dealing with the Daleks, and if they did that for the Ice Warriors, I would go crazy. I would force them all to come back so we could talk about it. There's already things coming up. Of course, you guys know Rachel. She's a huge River Song fan, and there's some River Song stuff coming up. So she's all like, "Oh, we've got this." But yeah, if it were Ice Warriors at that level, yeah, I would love to see an epic Ice Warrior, maybe Ice Warrior and Draconian story together or something like that. So there's some really neat things that could happen. I would come out of retirement even if I just did the Ashley Raburn Oncoming Storm,
the Peladon Empire.
I was actually talking to someone about New Who and the way it was produced and some things that I liked or didn't like, and I said, well, don't get me wrong, if I were in charge, it would just be the Peladon Ice Warrior Action Hour. So I'm not criticizing anyone for making poor decisions. I'm just saying they're not the decisions I would make. I would make my own poor decisions.
I could see just an entire season arc dealing with Peladon.
No. You misunderstand. Not season arc. Series arc.
What bad decisions would you make with Doctor Who?
Oh, I'd probably bring back really cheesy monsters and stuff that nobody really cared for. I don't know, I'd probably bring back the Quarks.
Oh my god, please, yes!
Again, so many of these things, you guys aren't to it yet, but the Nymon. which is my other favorite monster. They've brought them back in the audios. I think the Quarks have been back in the audios. The Dominators specifically have been back in books and audios, I think. So anything you can think of, someone's already made that bad decision, probably. But yes, I think that's a wonderful question. What bad decisions would you make for the sake of your love of Doctor Who, I think? And mine would be bring back Peladon. What I would probably do is make Peladon eventually turn into the Shadow Proclamation, which is another thing I love from New Who. So I have a whole idea of what that is. Which one of these days at Wholanta, I'm going to run my my Doctor Who role-playing game that is called The Horns of Peladon. One of these days I will get to that.
Nice. That'd be fun. Did you say you would fix the chameleon circuit?
Yeah, I would fix the chameleon circuit.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
How dare you?
See, I would do something
something really
drastic
big
and big, yeah, that people would be like, what? No! That's my initial reaction to getting hold of a property. It's just mess it up.
I think that's the reaction of most people who produce.
I don't I've had an answer for this for the longest time, and now it's kind of moot, isn't it?
What?
I mean, my answer would probably be it'd make the Doctor a woman.
Oh. Yeah.
So I don't know. I would probably bring back the Yeti. Yeah.
And not just as snowmen.
No,
literal snowmen.
but actual fuzzy robots.
Chicken nugget robots.
I have a version of the Doctor who I developed for a role-playing game that we never got off the ground, really. But she was just she was like a grimy mechanic, and I loved her very much.
So that's what you'd want to do?
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually our first time since recording a podcast since we watched Twice Upon a Time. So we've now finally got to see 13 in action.
Yeah.
Not a lot happening, but I'm already down for it.
I'm willing to give it a shot. We'll see.
Immediately crashing the TARDIS seems like something the Doctor would do.
That's pretty consistent.
Moffat did the exact same thing when he took over. So I think it's a good way to kind of start fresh and rebuild that way. That was done when the third Doctor took over, when they switched hands to Barry Letts and Terrence Dicks. It's kind of a tradition, almost.
I'm excited.
You guys ready to talk about Peladon?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm always ready to talk about Peladon.
Are you a fan? I couldn't tell.
I hate it.
All right, let's dive into the Monster of Peladon. Episode 1, which I have called The Spirit of Agador.
I don't hate it.
You don't hate it?
No.
All right, that's good.
I have neutral feelings, but I don't hate it.
And the first thing we see is Peladon, and it looks like they brought back all the sets and
I was so excited to see that little cliff face. Yay, we're back, we're here.
I guess they had them all in storage or something. Just set them all back up because it's been a year or so, right? When was Curse of Peladon?
It was just the season before, wasn't it?
Oh, okay, so it wasn't that far back.
That's probably why they did it. They were like, we still have these sets hanging around.
Let's just do another one. But we get some new characters.
Who have amazing haircuts because we're on Peladon. So of course they do. They have these striped afro sideburn things happening.
Doctor Who and the Skunk Men.
Yes.
And they are all miners.
Yeah, that's how you know. All the miners have the same hair. They
all go to the same barber. And hair dyist, I guess. I don't know. I guess that would be at the same place.
Yeah.
They could do it at home. They have I think they have the lance at this point, and they're going to use it, but the Spirit of Agador is not happy about it, shows up and disappears a dude.
Yeah,
shoots
some red overlays at them.
And they disappear. And then we go to the council room, I guess, or the throne room. And we see that there's a new queen, and there's basically a new Hepish. Which is, his name is, Ortron? Is that right?
Oh, I'm glad you remembered his name, because I kept calling him New Hepish in my head.
I called him New Hepish and Ultron. Are they saying Ultron? It's not Ultron. It's definitely not Ultron.
I will say he has some fabulous gloves. He's wearing some incredible purple gloves.
And he's got that same sort of Hepish hairstyle, too. The queen has a fancy crown. I will say right off the bat, I'm not as big a fan of her as I was the king of Peladon.
There's nothing wrong with her character, and I wanted to love her a whole bunch. Her acting, I feel like, is just kind of mixed.
Yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's a little off.
Yeah.
But for the most part, she's alright. Yeah. I preferred the dude in the
I think there's also a little bit of, missing, oh, you're not the character I was, hoping to see. Okay.
Yeah.
There's probably a little bit of that in there.
But we do get to see Alpha Centauri again.
We do!
Who is the same character.
My delightful little friend.
Yeah, I love Alpha Centauri, and I think we said last time, of course, she's made another appearance in New Who, or he
I've settled on they, whether or not that's like something that's in canon.
Right. I absolutely love Centauri. It's one of my favorite creatures. I was watching this, and my son, who is 2.5 years old, goes, "What's that big eyeball?" It was so great. I was like, yes, you can start to understand the might of Doctor Who and Alpha Centauri.
Part of what's fun about Alpha Centauri is just being like, what is that big eyeball? It's a lot of interesting choices were made, and they all come together in a way that makes me very happy.
I don't remember if we talked about this before, but when they built it, the producers said, "We can't put that on TV. It's profane." And that's why it actually has the cloak. It originally didn't have the cloak, but they were like, "It's way too phallic. We cannot put that on TV."
I don't think that stopped them before.
I love the solution to that. Like, it's fine now. It looks less phallic now. It's still pretty phallic.
But speaking of interesting designs, we also meet, this guy does not last long, but he's like this, I don't remember what his character exactly is. He's like he's one of the minor engineer guys. I think maybe he did something with the Sonic Lance.
Yeah.
But he kind of looks like a centaur with only 2 legs.
What does that mean?
Like, he's got the, like...
That's a person.
Well, not a centaur, like what is it when it's like, what's the thing? He looks like the thing in Chronicles of Narnia.
Okay.
Mr. Tumnus!
Yes. He looks like that, but with weirder eyes.
Yeah, crazy eyes.
Yeah, they're not looking in the same direction. One's looking down, one's looking up. But I was like, that's a really interesting design that does not get used for very long. Because, spoilers, he gets deaded really quickly.
I'm gonna be completely honest, I have no memory of this character.
Really? You thought his design was great?
He was like in the first 5-6 minutes, something like that. He's kind of orange, yellow.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you, sorry. It was so long ago, back in episode 1. He does have a great design.
But yeah, he's basically talking about Sonic Lance and to the Queen. They're mining for, was it trisilicate?
Yes.
Is that real or is that made up for the show?
I hate when you ask me.
I don't think it's not a real thing, but it's something that has, you hear about trisilicate from time to time, but it was in the show previous to this as well.
But trisilicate is basically what fuels everything for the Federation.
And Galaxy 5.
Yes. It fuels all their ships, all their weapons, everything you need for war.
It's a super fuel.
It's a plot device.
Yes.
But the TARDIS lands not where it's supposed to.
Yeah, the Doctor is actually trying to make it back to Peladon, though.
Yeah, he goes to the right place, just a little off target.
He's just in the mines, which Sarah Jane is not at all impressed with.
And they immediately get lost.
The Doctor's like, we're not lost. And Sarah Jane's like, okay, well, can we just go back to the TARDIS? And he's like, no, because we're lost.
This is, and I know you guys have already kind of watched these other serials up to this point, and I've not watched his in a while, but it's interesting to see Sarah at this point in her character development being so whiny. It's almost like they were still writing for Joe in a way. She's incredibly whiny, and I think it's because as we go forward, you see that she becomes like an incredibly strong character. And it's funny to see this first season and how differently that she is writing. I mean, she literally becomes one of the most iconic characters in the entire show, companion-wise, historically. So it is interesting just to see her written this way, and that was one of those things I had to kind of go back and kind of think about.
She's actually much better in this episode as compared to, what was the one we just watched?
Death to the Daleks. She's really bad in Death to the Daleks.
I mean, to the point where it's like, who is this? Who are they writing for here? So
I didn't notice it in this serial quite as much. It
might be because we were coming off of Death of the Daleks. Yeah. We're like, oh, good.
Yeah, I'm not meaning to have you guys retread. it was an observation I kind of was thinking as I was going through this.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely there.
I'm interested to see how she... I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved her immediately. But I'm interested to see how she grows, knowing that, she's such a fandom favorite.
Well, it's really interesting with her because she's the first classic Who companion we've had that I'm already familiar with because we've
seen Joe, but not
in one episode of Sarah Jane.
She doesn't have her own spin-off
with Sarah Jane,
and I've seen all of Sarah Jane. So So I'm super excited that we're in this current period.
When she first showed up, were you like, you're a baby?
Yeah, I was like, she's so young. It's very weird. She's kind of attractive, too, just saying.
What's weird is that, like, you probably have, experienced it the reverse of, not most people, I'm sure there are plenty of people who watch Sarah Jane and then went back and watch older stuff, but probably a lot of people,
Yeah, watch Sarah Jane because of, like, nostalgia reasons. Like,
yeah.
I want to hang out with Sarah Jane some more. I really liked her era and stuff.
So anyway, they are lost in the mines. I think they get captured awfully quickly. They're like, oh, somebody's just messing with you guys. Somebody is sabotaging the use of the sonic lance. And it's not Agador. There's no such thing. Which annoyed me kind of, like, only slightly.
Agador's in it.
Because, like, we set up that Agador is not an entity. I mean, not like a supernatural entity. He's just like
He's a big old pupper.
Yeah, he's just a dog. But I guess they still worship him.
Well, we learned it's been 50 years, right?
Yeah. But that's what, like, the Federation people are like, you guys are superstitious dummies.
Yeah, well, the miners, I think, specifically, are superstitious about it. Well, specifically, there's one miner who's kind of the worst.
The Federation is like, you guys are being silly. Will you just mine the shit for us?
The Queen does get a demonstration of it, too, and it, like, blows a hole into the cave wall really cleanly. That's a really cool effect. It's basically the Ice Warrior gun effect, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sonic lance, same technology.
So it does that, like...
I like that effect for some reason. I think it's fun.
But that's when
But they're talking about, it's probably, sabotage and...
Because that's when it kills the... Because they blow the hole in the wall, and that's when it kills the Mr. Tumnus-looking fellow.
Yeah. But they say it's probably sabotage, so go check the tunnels to see who's down there. And guess who they pick up? It's the Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Well, actually, when they first land, one of the guards sees them, goes and tells the Queen that there's people in the tunnels. So then they go look for them. But yeah, they do get caught because I think they eventually find their way to the temple.
Well, considering they could never find their way back to the TARDIS for the entire story, like they didn't even know where they were.
But I think he finally gets his like bearings. He's like, here's the temple.
I see a lantern. I know what to do with this.
There's a secret passage here, and he starts to give Sarah Jane the like, let me tell you about the last episode. And then they get caught. The Doctor's a little bummed out, I think, that he's 50 years too far ahead.
Yeah, he's kind of on our side on missing the king, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, you are no King Peladon.
Ortron is very, like, suspicious of the Doctor. And
I mean, because they did just go to, like, pick up, people who are messing with stuff.
Yeah.
And there they were.
And the Doctor's like, well, I'm the Doctor. You may remember me from your history books.
I might be some sort of legend. There might be like a really big painting of me in like a public place.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting. There's an idea kind of put in here when he starts saying all that he probably didn't visit just once. There's kind of this indication that like he had adventures, which is plural. She says, my father used to tell me of you and your adventures on Peladon, or something along those lines. So there's an indication that there were probably other stories that we didn't see.
Interesting.
I did not pick up on that, but that's nice.
Which some of that is done on audio. You get to see some of that with King Peladon, actually.
Is it all Third Doctor, or?
Yeah, it's that particular one was a companion chronicle. The companion chronicles are basically just audios that are performed or read by one or two people, and they're kind of telling stories. And this was literally David Troughton as King Peladon telling the story to his daughter of this other story that he had with the Third Doctor.
Oh, who was his companion?
He may not have had a companion. I don't remember. I don't recall. It's been a while since I've listened to that one.
Sounds cute.
Sounds good, yeah.
Yeah, so those are fun, and that was actually David Troughton doing that. So if you want some more King Peladon, you can still get it on occasion.
So he says,
yes.
You said it was him telling it to his daughter, and this is his daughter, right?
Yeah.
The new queen.
Yeah, so it's basically that whole idea of adventures. They kind of go back to that and have that. I can't remember what it's called, the something of Peladon.
I just remember too that the Doctor is like telling the story of the last episode. When he's doing that, he's like, "Yeah, I knew the king, no big deal." And Sarah Jane calls him a name dropper.
Yeah, he really is.
He truly is.
Ortron doesn't trust him. I think he's
they
trying
all think
to convince.
They're from Galaxy 5.
Yeah, they're spies for Galaxy 5, and that he's trying to convince the queen of this as well. But luckily, Alpha Centauri shows up and's like,
"I know him.
That's a friend from work."
That's definitely the Doctor.
They go around and like catch up. Like, it's been 50 years. And he's like, you look pretty much the same. A little gray around the tentacles, but not too different. I thought that was funny.
I think this part that always stands out to me is like Alpha Centauri's disdain for Sarah. It just like looks her up and down. Like, she's so judgmental.
Like, that person's not important. Like, whoa, that is so harsh. Like, incredibly harsh. I thought you were kind. I thought you were a kind little penis.
It's just so judgmental. I mean, just everything about the way they, like, make the eye go up and down. She's just like, what is she even wearing?
Alpha becomes almost kind of sexist at one point, because there's like a bit later on where Sarah storms out to go do something. Alpha's just like, oh, the female of that species. They're just so awful.
They must be really rash.
It's like, calm down, you've met 2 of them.
The other thing that's interesting is that there's a part where he goes, the female? And, like, looks at the doctor, and the doctor nods at her, like, yeah, it's a lady. She's like, I can't recognize the difference between sexes.
That's my favorite trope of all time, to be honest. Just like, I know you guys have this thing. I don't really understand it, but I know that it's, like, offensive if I don't get it right. You're the girl one? The boy? I don't understand the differences. I will never get tired of aliens not understanding gender.
We also meet a character named, I think it's Eckersley?
Yeah, Eckersley.
Who is wearing a nice, like, fetish jumpsuit thing going on. It's like black leather, or like black latex is what it is.
So here's the thing. I looked him up, and he's not someone who's done a ton of work. I think he had been on like one other Doctor Who episode.
The Space Pirates.
And he was in Z-Cars, and he has done some Coronation Street and that's kind of stuff in British television. But here's the thing, is that he's very good in this, I think. Like, he does such a good job of taking on this character. And it's someone I've never really paid a lot of attention to before, but in watching it this time, I just kept thinking of how similar he is to, like, Tom Baker. Like, he looks a lot like Tom Baker. He has some mannerisms and a little bit, I mean, it's not identical, but just that similarity.
He's a lot more, thin and gangly, but yeah, he looks a lot like Tom Baker.
So I just thought, I don't know, something about him, he had a very doctorish quality to me. And he turns out to be a jerk, but there you go.
He's kind of Weasley.
I don't think he was Weasley in Space Pirates. Because when we watched this, I was like, that guy looks so familiar. I know he's been on the show before. I don't really remember his character.
Who's in Space Pirates?
Okay, so you know, Milo.
Yeah.
Gets picked up by whatever the Federation was in that thing. Uh-huh. He's the captain of that crew. He's
another Federation character?
I don't know if it was a Federation, but it was
okay.
A big conglomerate of folk. Like the cowboys, like, I don't like your government. Yeehaw! They're that group of people.
That is exactly how the Space Pirates goes. The miners, though, are planning a rebellion.
Led by Gebek. Well, Gebek's sort of, trying to, control this unruly group of miners.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, let's do this, but let's do it right. So the deal with the miners is that basically, and this is something that I really wanted to talk about that I really like about the Peladon stories, is that they seem eerily relevant. So, the first Peladon story is basically about globalization. And this story is basically what happens when globalization only helps people at the top and doesn't necessarily deliver on all the promises it makes to help everybody. So the miners have all these complaints about life's getting harder for them because they're having to mine for the Federation, and they're all they're in here and they don't understand, the planet or anything, and so they basically are going to go overthrow. They want to rebel and not have to mine for the Federation anymore. They're mad that things have gotten a lot better for the Queen and those people, and not necessarily for them.
The miners are basically, there's Gebek who's let's handle this nicely and talk to the Queen and get everything sorted out. And then there's this other guy whose name I don't know, but he's basically let's go fight people and shoot them. That's how we solve this. Let's kill people. So while Gebek is talking to the Queen, this other guy gets everybody to storm, and they're going to steal the weapons from the kingdom, the upper class. Which they do too. They get somebody to open the doors for them.
Eventually. In the second or third episode, I think.
There's a lot that happens in this. There's a lot of intrigue and stuff, and it's easy to get lost in trying to remember what all happened, especially considering this is a 6-parter.
Right, and especially at the beginning, because I think at the beginning it is a little slow, and it takes a while to kind of get into it and start figuring out what everything is and where everything's going. I do want to, this is something that's kind of throughout this entire serial. Did you notice that there's no proper entrance to the mines?
Oh, you're right. There's only sneaky secret door entrances.
You always have to go behind a tapestry in order to get to the mines. The only proper entrance is through the temple, which no one's allowed in. So yeah, the only way to get into the mines are through like sneaky ways where you have to go behind a tapestry. Just an observation I made. I was like, there's no proper way into the mines.
There might be a proper way, but we just never see it, because no one's going to take the proper way.
I mean, there are times where, like, they go in there to mine, like...
Or, like, Gebbet comes to talk to the queen.
Yeah.
He always comes from out behind a tapestry.
I just think those are unseemly. Like, that's a big old hole in that wall. Put a rug over it or something. I don't know.
I never thought about that. That is true. But that's basically where the doctor goes, is he's like, I think this whole Agador thing is a trick. Because
I know Agador is a good boy.
He's a real good boy. And he's going to go check out where the attacks happened, where Tumnus died. And he gets sent out with the champion, who
still has his tongue cut out.
Yeah.
I thought they'd maybe look at that in 50 years.
Well, and also, he's wearing an Agador head.
Did they learn nothing in 50 years?
It sounds like they actually regressed.
And also, there's a great bit when, like, the queen's like, yeah, you can go check it out, but I'm going to send my champion with you. And the champion just, like, stands up to the doctor, and he's just towering over him. And the doctor's like, yeah, okay. Let's go. But they go check it out, and they go to inside where the lance opened up, and there's a bunch of trisilicate. The doctor's examining it, but that awful miner guy sees them in there and is like, well, let's kill them. We'll sacrifice them, and that'll appease Agador. And so they shoot the lance at the cave entrance, and it like collapses in on them. I was like, oh, that's a great cliffhanger, but it kept going a little bit. I was like, oh, all right. And then,
I legit thought that we would see credits any second now.
But no, the doctor's fine. He gets up. Then Agador appears and shoots the red overlay at the champion, who dies in a hilarious, like, he does like hilarious facial gestures. I was making GIFs of it just the other day.
What does he do?
He's just like way over the top, like bug-eyed, like, what?
I mean, wouldn't you do that if you saw the spirit of Agador spit orange overlays at you?
That's probably fair.
I know I would.
But that's the actual cliffhanger.
Which is still good, but I feel like not as strong.
Yeah, because I was like, oh no, the thing fell on the doctor. Maybe he's dead. No. He's fine. So but that's the end of episode 1. We're now into episode 2, which I've called The Age of Ortron.
Oh, I see.
Because I thought they said Ultron all the time. The recaps at the beginning of every episode in this serial, I feel like they are incredibly
They're like a whole
long.
episode.
I was looking at that, and they're about 2 minutes, if not more.
Oh my god, it felt like my whole life. I'm not being dramatic.
They really probably could have cut down... oh man, if they could have cut like an extra 16 minutes, they could have gotten it down to at least 5 episodes just from that.
Honestly, I wonder if, obviously I feel like there's some padding whenever it's like, we're gonna recap the last 2 minutes. Like, did you come up a little bit short on your scripts there, buddy?
It always like astounds me how like off they will get sometimes and have to restructure things. The best being in the last serial when the cliffhanger was, oh no, the floor.
The floor! It's patterned oddly! No! Honestly though, when stuff like that happens, I feel like it's a testament to just how much you have to be like, we gotta go on. So what? So what that, half the script got scrapped and now it's half too long. We'll just pull something from here, whatever. We gotta make it. We have a deadline. Let's go. The floor's the cliffhanger. Let's go. I appreciate that. I appreciate that someone somewhere was just like, fine.
So I wonder if they were
it could go on.
They were just a half episode short for this serial, so they're just like, make those recaps long.
Somebody somewhere was just like, I'm making an executive decision. It's gonna suck. This is what we're doing. It's fine. And everyone was like, okay, fine. We'll go on another day.
All right, Barry, let's.
I feel like that's how TV is sometimes. I have a very similar situation at work where I just edited an interview and it's much too short, and we're currently like, where can we pull from other interviews for this show that we're airing? So I'm just saying, I appreciate it. I have no room to talk to get on to someone else.
By the way, is the person who wrote this the same person who wrote Curse of Peladon?
Yes, yeah.
Did he write the other Ice Warrior stories as well?
I believe so, yeah. I think he's the creator of the Ice Warriors. I think, what is it? Brian Hales, I think, wrote it.
Yeah.
Don't show up until what? 3 or 4?
I'm gonna be honest.
The end of 3, I think.
I didn't even think about the Ice Warriors.
They showed up and Joe gasped.
I was like, oh, right. Yeah.
There are Ice Warriors in this. Nice. And I was like Ashley is on the episode, so I figured.
I completely forgot about them. I will say that that's the biggest problem with, like, the first 3 episodes of this, is it does kind of feel a little bit like we're just retreading over the Curse of Peladon. A lot of similar, like, there's the royal figure, be it king or queen, with, you know, the heppish Ortron character, like, not trusting anything and worshipping Agador, and it's all sort of similar, and it doesn't really get mixed up until, like, the Ice Warriors appear, and things are kind of different.
Yeah.
The plot goes in a different way a little bit. But episode 2, the one miner, I wish I knew his name.
Which one?
The one who's a jerk.
It's like Eaton or something, like, starts with, like, double E's, I think.
Yeah, Eton or Eaton. Oh, yeah.
You have access to the internet, and the internet holds all the answers.
I feel like that's cheating.
I feel like you could just do it before we start recording the podcast.
I do have all of the names of the characters except for this minor character. He's not a minor character. He's a miner.
You're gonna make this joke so often every time there's mining in Doctor Who, which is always.
Often. It is often. Very, very often. What is Doctor Who's obsession with mining?
I just think they have, caves to walk around in. You got quarries, here's some miners.
Edis?
Etteis.
Yeah, Edis. His name is Edis. Oh, it says he was in the Web of Fear? Okay, so Etis collapses the cave in on the Doctor and the Champion. Gebek shows up and is like, what happened? And he brags about it to Gebek. And Gebek's like, that's not cool.
You just killed some people. What?
Let's move these rocks out of the way. And Agador just faded away.
Also, we kind of skipped over this, but the Doctor has saved Gebek.
Previously?
Yeah.
There was like a little tussle in the throne room. They thought that Gebek was a traitor or whatever, and then the Doctor...
The miners had that tussle, like Gebek wasn't a part of it, but they caught Gebek and was like, well, he's in charge of the miners. Yeah, the Doctor helps him escape. So Gebek's like, you can't kill him. He helped me. He might be like one of our only friends.
Right.
In this whole situation. So let's get him out.
So they can't move the rocks, so they use the lance on the rocks to make a hole. And Agador reappears, and the Doctor jumps through the hole in the cave wall just in time and
to escape the overlay.
I love the way he just leaps through the hole.
It is great.
It is. It's great. It's like perfect form.
I would expect nothing less
from a stunt man.
It's perfect for 3 and his action. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any. Is there any Doctor after him that is quite as action heavy as this Doctor? Or is that just a specifically Third Doctor thing? I
mean, that's kind of his thing. I mean, I guess when you get into new series, you get a little bit. But I mean, the idea when they came back, the series was about to die with Patrick Troughton. And they basically convinced the BBC to let them have a chance at it. And when they did that and they made him Earthbound for that the first few seasons, they basically were like, well, what can we do? Well, what's really popular? Well, James Bond's really popular. Okay, well, let's make him kind of a man of action like James Bond. Let's let him ride motorcycles and all these things. And I think John Pertwee was just really like a man's man. He liked those things. Like I think eventually he owned Bessie, the Who-mobile. If I'm not mistaken, he actually had that commissioned and built.
He did.
Without telling anybody either. He just brought it to set and was like, this is going to be in the show.
I mean, he was just like this guy who just loved that stuff. So I think a lot of it had to do with just him. He just really wanted to play this role that way.
Yeah. He definitely feels a lot like if you took James Bond and Batman, the 60s Batman, and smushed them together.
That is so accurate.
It's more of the cheesiness of Batman with the action hero of James Bond.
Well, it was almost like when you wrote for him, they're like, you have to put like a sword fight or or something in there.
You gotta karate chop someone.
You gotta have something in there where he's doing something. It's in his rider. You know, you can give him whatever color M&Ms you want, but you gotta let him punch something or have a sword fight with it.
Or at least drive one cool car.
Or sing to Agador. He's okay with that, too.
Like, literally, that was one of my favorite things I was looking forward to when I knew that we were watching a new Paladin thing. I was like, I hope he sings again. And he does.
But after he gets rescued by Gebek, this is when they're like, Gebek's like, you saved me before, now I've saved you, we're even. And then they become best buds. And like, from this point on, like, the Doctor is like so team Gebek, it's ridiculous. Every time he's like talking to the Queen or Ortron or anybody, he's like, you know who you should team up with? Gebek. Gebek's pretty great.
That's because Gebek is great.
That's true.
I mean, no one has skunk hair like that guy, except for all the other miners.
It's not as good. It's skunk hair in a way that is less good.
His head fits it better.
Oh yeah, it suits him. Suits his features.
I love the way that the hair just meshes with their eyebrows and comes around. It's one big thing. It's great. Talk about helmet head.
It's such a good design choice.
I'm assuming it's a wig and they didn't actually style their hair that way, right?
No.
Nah, I'm sure it's a wig, yeah.
I assumed that they had to sit in a chair for hours getting permed and dyed.
The casting office was just like, you have to find people with hair like this. And there's a series of badger people that live around the UK that have this hair, so you have to pull them in. Go find the badger people.
Doesn't matter if they can act or not.
Nope.
Go out and hire all the badger people you can find. Which they're hard to find, so they're good at hiding.
You have to go hang out with those Wind in the Willows guys.
But basically the Doctor and Gebek are like discussing plans and like, hey, just have the miners go back to work and I will go talk to the higher ups and see if I can get you guys better conditions. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane is trying to find the Doctor because she's watched some of this on the security cams in the surveillance room. She gets a little turned around and finds this room which she sees someone in and she's like, hey, help me. And she goes to open and then the person behind it's like a sort of the windows,
frosted
frosted glass window or whatever. So you can't really see through it, and whatever's behind it moves away.
It's an ice warrior.
It is an ice warrior. I didn't know. I was so surprised.
We won't know for another episode. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone.
But she goes to open the door, and she is attacked by rainbows.
Yeah, rainbow overlays.
Swirly rainbow overlays.
And some really annoying sound effects.
I love the explanation for this too is it's just a defense mechanism. We just have this security system that if any intruders are there, it drives you insane.
Scrambles your brain like eggs.
That's a little intense.
And I mean, people call him on it. They're like, don't you think that's a little harsh? I think Sarah Jane asks, having experienced it firsthand. And he's like, well, you gotta understand, we're on a hostile planet, and, these miners aren't listening to us. These measures are totally justified.
And the person who's saying that is Eckersley, because he's the one that sees her being attacked by it or whatever on the camera and goes and sort of saves her. But he's also a bad guy, so of course he would say, yeah, it's fine, leave it up.
It's fine. That really should be your first hint that this guy's probably not great. His security system, a bit much.
The S&M villain outfit didn't tip your hat?
No, because I could see Doctor Who just putting good guys in it.
I think at some point Ortron decides to put the Doctor in prison. That's in this one too, right?
Yes.
And that Sarah thing's happening while he's in jail.
No, at this point he's hanging out with the miners. Yeah, he's eating around a campfire.
He's just swapping some stories, eating some s'mores.
And it's just further establishing just go back to work, I'll go talk to people and make sure things are cool. And then Gebek and the Doctor sort of leave to go do that. And then Edis is like, all right, now that the parents are out of the room, let's stir up some shit.
Let's plan a rebellion. Now that Mom and Dad are gone, let's start a revolution.
And this is the time when basically the Doctor tells him how to break into the armory.
You didn't think that all the way through.
They're sitting around the campfire, and the Doctor's like, yeah, you would have never gotten through anyways. You have to do that from the communication room. And then the camera just zooms in on him. And he's like, and you can literally see the wheels spinning in his badger brain. Just that they're spinning, he's like, I know what I'm gonna do. And then when they walk out of the room, he follows them out of the room and then looks back and goes, I have a plan.
That's basically what the doctor gets arrested for, is they follow through on this plan. They get some weapons from the armory, and because the doctor's with Gebek and Gebek's a minor, they're like, see, he was plotting against you all along.
Immediately after, when Eckersley gets Sarah Jane away from the door.
Yeah.
And she's like, I saw something in there. And he's like, no, you didn't. You were probably hallucinating. And I was like, I thought we were past this. How many more times are we going to see a companion be like, I saw a thing, and then someone else going, no, you didn't.
I mean, it's not like the doctor...
Yeah, this time it was a bad guy just distracting
covering
her
his own tracks.
Yeah.
But I think we are over the time of, like, someone just being like, I saw something, and everyone being like, nah, it's fine, and then getting eaten.
You're just a silly woman.
It's not only the women that it's happened to, though. It's
primarily, though.
It is primarily, yeah. But it happens to a lot of companions. And it's mostly just frustrating because it's like, we've seen the monster, we know it's really there, and now we're just gonna have to take time to convince this other person. It just takes up time in a way that's not entertaining.
So yeah, the whole rebellion thing happens, and yeah, the doctor sort of gets blamed for it. Because basically Ortron's like, see? What have I been saying? We let him go talk to the miners, and now there's a miner revolt. Told you.
And now they all have future weapons because they stole weapons from the Federation.
Edis ran into the surveillance room and got Alpha to open the door for him.
These are all people who had, like, spears and shit, and now they've got laser guns.
He almost kills Alpha, too. Like, Edis does. He's about to swing a sword at them. Sarah Jane saves Alpha Centauri before that happens. They take Sarah Jane to the temple and say that, well, you helped open the door. You didn't really open the door. You were just there, kind of, when it happened, but you helped. So you're gonna get punished. The doctor shows up as well to try to stop it, and like, Ortron's like, you suck too. And he's like, I'm gonna ask Agador what to do. And he does like his little ritual, and he's like, Agador says you gotta get thrown in the pit.
Agador says, fuck you guys. Totally, that's what he said. Heard him.
Oh, they tried to like appeal to the queen, I think.
And the queen's like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, but then that's when the doctor's like, you should give a pep talk. Sarah, you should give a pep talk to the queen. Oh, this scene's in
this episode!
Yeah.
Okay, we have to talk about this. Because the thing about the queen is that it's pretty apparent that she doesn't have a lot of power. And she says as much. She's like, I basically, just do what I'm told. Yeah, I'm basically just kind of a stand-in.
Because I'm a lady. I am only a girl. Is what she says.
Yeah.
And Sarah Jane says, there's nothing only about being a girl.
Sarah Jane is like, hi, we're doing a feminist episode.
She literally says, I'm here to talk to you about women's liberation.
Granted.
A little on the nose.
The scene is cheesy. Also granted, I loved it a lot. It was cheesy in a way that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I was a little afraid when she was like, now I'm going to tell you about women's lib. And I was like, oh, this might be awkward. Like we're suddenly watching like a PSA or something. But it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So it kind of all right. That's fine.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
My thing about it is, I think it is a lot of fun, but the issue is nothing was really done with it.
You are 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, the queen, until the very end, every time she comes on, you're like, oh, she's gonna do it. She's gonna become, like, this strong woman and this, and every time she's like, oh, well, I guess Ortron will do that. Like, that scene really becomes pointless because nothing happens with it, which is unfortunate. Like, they could have done so much with it.
It does later on. I feel like she definitely has a moment where she sort of stands up and is like, I'm the queen, this is what we're doing. Again, this is part of what I was saying about how I wanted to like her a lot, but her acting is such a mixed bag that her face doesn't, like, emote when she's having that moment. And so it's easy to not realize that that's what's happening.
I don't know. I just don't think they didn't write good moments for her. I mean, she had a few things that could have been good, but then she always just becomes just a girl again. For every moment she stands up, there's a moment that occurs later where she forgets to.
Yeah, I mean, that actually happens pretty much immediately because they go back to the temple and they get sentenced to the pit, and the queen rushes over and is like, don't put them in the pit. And then he's like, too late, I'm putting them in the pit.
Because he pushes them in as she walks through the door.
And that's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, well, they get pushed in the pit, and then Agador shows up.
The real Agador.
The real Agador.
We've been seeing like a little statue Agador all the times before.
If the last episode was the spirit of Agador, this episode is the body of Agador.
Oh, I thought this episode was the age of Ortron.
It is.
So, episode 3.
I have called The Pit of Peladon.
Oh.
Because it's alliterative.
This is the one that this episode starts with a thing that I was very excited about. We get to hear the Doctor sing again, and he sings so well. I want a recording of that. I'm going to make that my ringtone.
Haroon, Haroon, Haroon. Yeah, that's super fun. I love that song. I absolutely love that. You get to hear it a few times in the audios. I think Peter Davison sings it at one point.
I wonder if there's like any like professionally recorded versions of it, like with like musical music to the background, you know?
I'm just saying him in the white t-shirt singing that song is dangerous, and that's all I'll say. If, like, both of those things were to happen at once, it'd be bad.
I don't understand you.
I don't understand it either. Let's stop talking about it. I'm sorry to have brought it up.
My favorite part of this scene is when he's like, he hypnotize or, calms down Agador, and he's petting Agador, and he's like, come and tickle his ears, Sarah.
And Sarah's like, no,
thank you.
I don't think so. That thing was trying to eat me 5 seconds ago. I'm good.
She's like, I'm not a dog person.
And then they shout out, hey, let us out. They're like Daniel in the Lion's Den, basically. But there's a really nice shot where when they're looking up and they're looking through the hole in the floor, and it's Ortron, the Queen, and Alpha looking into the hole, and the statue of Agador is behind them, and it's like so nicely framed. I'm a big fan of that shot.
I do like this scene because the Queen's basically like, well, you sent them to Agador. Agador passed his judgment. Get him out. And the guy has to be all huffy about it.
Ortron, yeah.
Ortron has to be like, I thought he would eat them. Damn it.
He is the Doctor, the Agador speaker, whisperer.
Oh, the Agador Whisperer. I'd watch that show.
It's like a TV show on Peladon. It's just John Pertwee whispering to Agador and singing to him. All the kids on Peladon go to sleep by it.
Nice.
I would legitimately watch that show.
I would too.
Then there's a scene with Eckersley and Alpha Centauri. Alpha. I'm just gonna say Alpha. Eckersley and Alpha talking possible plans and stuff, and specifically with like what they're going to do with the Federation and everything. Alpha wants to talk to the higher ups and get them involved because
Alpha's actually kind of talked into that by
Eckersley, and also Eckersley goes to go get the lance because nobody's watching it. He's like, you know what? That could be used as a weapon.
Yeah, the miners might try to steal that and use it against us.
So maybe we should put that somewhere else.
They don't really succeed. The miners steal it and then use it as a weapon.
The Doctor finally gets to talk to the Queen and be like, I really like Gebek. You should too. Go Team Gebek. Which they pull up these chairs and they have tea. It's really nice. There's a lot of like sitting around enjoying food and drink in this serial.
As always, something that we know I enjoy.
But the Queen's like, I don't know if I want to do that because Ortron says that giving in to the miners' demands is bad. The Doctor eventually talks her into doing it. So that's the Doctor talking her into doing it, not her doing it on her own.
That's still not better.
Yeah, but she wants to talk to Gebek. Oh wait, no, that's when the women's lib scene happens. Hey, whatever. It happened at some point in this serial. So yeah, Alpha asks for Federation troops to come help out. And the Doctor's really annoyed about it. And then that's when Sarah Jane tells the Doctor that she saw someone in the refinery. That's what it is. It's a refinery. The Doctor's going to go check that out. But Ortron sort of puts some kinks in the plan there. I don't know what happened to my sentencing
I don't
skills.
know what happened either. It stopped halfway through.
Ortron kind of overhears them talking about what they're going to do, and sort of he's going to go talk to Gebek and stuff too. So Ortron storms in and is like, "I'm on to you in your nefarious ways." And the Doctor's like, "I was told to go talk to Gebek. You gotta let me go."
Like, literally, the Queen just said this 5 minutes ago.
You were there.
Sarah Jane calls him a pompous idiot too.
And that's when he gets put in prison, right?
He leaves and is followed by Ortron, and he's starting to use that secret passage and then gets like caught.
You mean the way into the mines?
Yes.
The main door.
And they're going to take him to the dungeons. But Sarah Jane was following them, and she takes the secret door. It's the worst kept secret on Peladon. So Sarah Jane finds Eckersley trying to move the lance, and the miners are also watching this. Specifically Edis, I think. Maybe Gebek. Not sure. So then there's a whole scene of Ortron, like, talking to the Queen about how he's caught the Doctor, and she's like, what? And he's like, well, he doesn't... Who is he? What even is he? Why do we trust him so much? Does he have any credentials? And no, he does not. And he's like, I'm going to put out an order to catch Sarah Jane as well, because she's helping him. And the Queen's like, don't do that. And he's like, but she's only a lady. It doesn't matter. So I guess I won't. Who cares about her?
Well, and then we begin to get the comic relief of the jail cell, which is what I'm so excited about talking about.
Go for it.
There's two things. Like, the doctor, like, asks the guard for water. And then the guard comes up and he tries to steal the keys. And the guard's like, oh, I'll show you. And then he's like, forget it, and walks away. And he's like, well, what about my water? And he goes and pours it back into the pitcher, like, in front of him.
That is a fantastic scene.
Yeah, I love that. And then we get another scene, the next scene that we see the doctor, he's still in prison. And Gebek has, like, realizes that he's in jail, so he's gonna go help break him out. And so he's like, hey, you guard, have you seen this? And he does this thing where he, like, makes a coin disappear out of his head, and then he taps his own head, and it comes out of his mouth. And he does what I call Pertwee eyes, which are these huge, like, he makes his eyes really big and mysterious looking. And then we get what might be the best right hook in all of Doctor Who history. I don't even think this was a pretend punch. I think that extra that was playing the guard had an affair with the guy playing Gebek's wife. And he was, like, using this as a way to get, to do something, because this was the best laid punch in all of Doctor Who. It is amazing. It's a hard punch.
It is. That's not particularly good. And this is not the first time that the Doctors use, like, a magic trick to escape. I love it.
I think that's really like a third Doctor. I think a Pertwee thing. I think he just liked doing that. He's like, he puts that on his rider too, you know? He's like, I have to be able to sword fight, ride in a car, or do a magic trick. I mean, that's what I would do if I was an actor playing the Doctor. I would make sure that I could do one of those things.
That's a good call.
Basically, what happened with Sarah Jane and Eckersley is they get caught by the miners. The miners take the lance. Also, Sarah Jane gets a message to Gebek saying, the Queen wants to talk to you. And then they leave, but they leave the lance with them. And also, Edis is really mad that he didn't get to kill anybody. But then that's when Gebek comes and sort of rescues the Doctor as well. So that's how he gets there, because he's on his way to go talk to the Queen. The Doctor wants to go with Gebek to the refinery.
Because they know something fishy's about it.
Am I wrong, or do they move do the miners put the lance, they take it out and, like, aim it at?
They point it at a model.
Yeah.
Yes.
They point it at the model of Peladon as just a, like, threat, I guess. Does anything happen with that? I don't recall.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, eventually the Doctor goes, and that's where the rider comes into effect, and he has a sword fight with Edis. That's in, like, the next episode, I think.
But right now the Doctor's at the refinery, and there is a very conspicuous box next to the rainbow door, which the Doctor uses his sonic to unscrew.
A screw! I was so pleased!
It's like, I haven't seen that happen since the War Games.
Eckersley sees him on the security cams, and is like, oh, he's joined the rebels and is causing sabotage. But Sarah Jane stops him from doing anything rash, which is basically, it was just Eckersley like, uh-oh, he's onto my thing. So Ortron goes and talks to all the miners and the guards and says that there are Federation troops coming because Alpha called them. And we basically kind of have to act like everything's fine. We kind of have to team up against them.
It's the fastest way to get them to leave is if we just pretend like everything's fine until they go. And then we can go back to fighting.
This was this is Sarah Jane's plan too, right? Yeah, so basically act like nothing's wrong, they'll leave, and then we can deal with all this mess.
Then we can go back to having a war without outside influences.
He's like, just do this, and afterwards we'll have a big trial, and we'll take care of all of your problems. We'll deal with it then.
And we might kill you.
We might. That's a possibility.
But it'll just be us, and not the Federation. So really, think about it. Federation has laser guns, so there's that.
But, like, as soon as the miners go back to working, Agador immediately takes out one of the spirit of Agador, I should say, immediately takes out one of the miners, and they all just start screaming and running and panicking. Around the same time, the Doctor finally opens the refinery door, and the cliffhanger is, it's an Ice Warrior! And I was legitimately like,
Joe was so
what?
shocked.
Oh, right! Yeah, we're watching this! And I think this is when the serial sort of takes a uptick.
Yeah, actually, like, for real get started.
To this point, it's been pretty slow, but it does, at this point, I think, these last 3 episodes are really, like, the first episode and the last 3 are probably the only ones you need. Because it's just a bunch of going in and out of the mines.
Through that
Through
tapestry.
secret doors.
Like, that's basically all that's been happening. You know, we've kind of been confused on episodes, but it's because they're so similar to this point. That's the thing. They are really similar, and this is the point that, like, and you know why? Ice Warriors.
If your cereal is failing, just throw in an Ice Warrior.
I always say that. I always think that is the solution to make a Doctor Who story better.
It's not the worst thing you can do.
No.
I think the worst thing to do would be, let's throw a Dalek in it. I'm so overplayed on
I feel like if you, like, having watched so much of the show at this point, I mean, it feels like a significant amount. You have the percentage. What is it?
We're about 50%, we're a little over halfway through Classic Who.
Halfway through Classic Who. It does seem like there are periods where it's like, Dalek, 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 Dalek. And then everyone is like, stop! And then they go away for a really long time. And then everyone gets nostalgic again. And then everyone's like, do you remember the Daleks? How come we haven't done an episode with the Daleks in a while? And then there's like 4 of them. And then everyone's over them again.
Well, and John Pertwee hated working with the Daleks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, I hate working with them. And he didn't get to work with the Cybermen at all, which I always thought was a horrible travesty.
Yeah, like, there's only one Cyberman in the Third Doctor's run, which is that one small shot in Carnival of Monsters.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Originally, like I said, I think they were going to be on Frontier in Space, but they didn't make it.
Oh, that might have made Frontier in Space at least a little more interesting.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was actually talking to someone else about that today, not you guys. Yeah, Frontier in Space they were going to have the Cybermen in it, but Terry Nation was like, screw this. You can't put the Cybermen with the Daleks.
That's funny considering how often they've done it recently. The Ice Warriors show up.
Oh, we are now into episode 4, which I have called The Cooperation of Peladon. Because everybody's got to cooperate.
Man, the Ice Warriors show up, and we kind of start to hear their plan, and it reminds me of why the Ice Warriors are so good.
Yeah, this is kind of like the flip side of Curse of Peladon. Like,
yeah.
Curse of Peladon, they're like, we're actually good. And this one is like, it's a splinter group, right?
Yeah.
That they're not good.
The thing about Ice Warriors is they're always very sort of, like, they're just people.
Yeah.
They're morally gray in the way you expect people to be, and some of them are good, and some of them are bad, and some of them think they're good, but they're actually bad.
To be honest, that's exactly why I love the Ice Warriors so much, is because of that. It was really neat in this one to see, like, them bring back all of the costumes, even Big Head costume.
Yeah.
I was so happy to see Big-Headed Ice Warrior. I was like, that's it. That's an official, like, that guy is like a specific class now.
And that particular guy, I feel so bad for him. He's the one that gets the rock to the head.
Well, it's such a big target.
I guess so. Man, that poor big-headed Ice Warrior.
There are a bunch of different Ice Warriors, and they all have like slightly different helmets and different designations. I want to know, what do you think the like, big-headed Ice Warrior, what do you think his deal is? Like, what do you think his place is in, like, society?
I imagine he's the guy that no one really wants on the ship with them, and he always gets stuck with they always get stuck with him, and they're like, let's make sure we know which one he is, give him the big helmet.
And they're always like, it never fails. Whenever we go to see a movie, he's sitting right in front of me.
Like, it's so funny, because it's not even in proportion with the rest of his body. Like, I don't know if that was just, like, they made it, and they're like, well, we messed up, let's do this again. And, but now we have this, we don't want to waste it, because it costs us, like, 700 pounds to make, so let's use it. And, I don't know what the deal with that Ice Warrior is. I've always meant to, like, look that up, and it's just one of those things I haven't. As much stupid random facts as I don't know about that guy. But I know, like, they always tend to put that one on promotional pictures from the era, and I'm not really sure why.
He's the biggest. Put him on. They'll get to see the most of his face.
See, that's the thing. He's actually the smallest. If you look at him, he still stands shorter than all the rest of them, even with the dark helmet-sized helmet.
So, the Ice Warriors, they come into the communications room, and they're basically like, we're the Federation troops that were like on their way, right?
Right. And we're under we're putting you under martial law.
You guys are taking too long to mine this stuff. We've been authorized to do basically whatever it takes. And we're in charge.
You know, something throws me off. If someone comes in and says, you're under martial law, I would start questioning things.
My first question would be, what exactly is martial law?
And he's like, I'm a marshal, and it's my law.
Isn't it more like Martian law?
They do accept it really quickly. Oh, because it's Ice Warriors.
Yeah, they're Martians.
It makes me wonder if they have, this has happened before, and they're like, oh no, not again. Federation martial law. Or, if it hasn't, why wouldn't they be like, why are the Federation a bunch of dicks? Like, they've been really good. Like, what took them? Why are they like this now?
Alpha's like that a little bit. Alpha's like, I feel like they haven't been dicks this whole time. Like, I feel like they have a little crisis, like a mini crisis of, like, what they've dedicated their life to.
Well, and Alpha's like, I've been working for the Federation for, 300 years, and this has never happened.
But I'm not going to question it.
No.
I gotta do what the person above me tells me to do, so.
Or I'll take this cape off.
But they're basically saying all the miners get back to work, mine all that trisilicate, or die.
Yeah, we've got a couple of hostages. They'll start dying. If you guys don't do what we need you to do.
And the first one is the doctor.
Which is not a very good, hostage for the miners, because they don't care.
They're just like, okay, well, we just won't work. I don't like that guy. I'm trying to kill him the whole show. And the doctor's like, the good guys don't like me. The bad guys don't like me. What's my place in life?
I'm just gonna go hang out with Gebek.
I'm gonna go sing to Agador some more. You guys suck. I'm gonna hang out with my puppy.
A bunch of miners do die at some point.
Yeah, because they come in and try to kill they try to take over the Citadel. They just kill them all. With, one Ice Warrior's blast.
Oh yeah, the Ice Warrior gun effect is, way better. It's basically the same thing, but it seems more harsh.
You seem kind of disturbed by it this time around.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Jesus.
They disappeared that guy.
Well, probably because they're bad guys, and they're, killing people.
Before the effect would just look like a sort of mirror effect. I don't know, it looked like it was just completely taking them out of existence this time.
Like it crumbled inward?
Yeah, it's almost like you take a fishing line in the middle of the film and you just pull back. It has that, pulling effect.
You could imagine, the little...
Yeah. And they're gone.
I was like, dang, this is... I don't know, it just felt more harsh than it ever has before. Also, at some point, Alpha sort of realizes that Eckersley is on Team Ice Warrior, right? And tries to call the Federation...
The real Federation.
The real Federation and be like...
Is that in this episode or episode 5? Because that's when Sarah and Alpha are overhearing them in the...
I don't know if Alpha necessarily learns that Eckersley's with the Ice Warrior, but definitely in this episode, Alpha tries to call the Federation and talk about, the bad things that Eckersley is doing.
But it's jammed.
But the signal is jammed.
Oh, right, that time, yeah.
So no communications can get out. Basically, everything that's going on right now is just everybody being like, hey, just pretend to cooperate for a little while until we can get rid of these Ice Warriors.
Gebek's having none of that.
Well, no, Gebek wants to, because he's telling them it's Edis.
Not Gebek.
Edis.
Yeah, Edis.
Is a jerk. But they get the miners to cooperate. While they're doing that, the doctor's goes to the control room and cranks the heat up.
Because he knows the Ice Warriors can't stand that.
They're made of ice, right?
You take their helmets off and they're just snowmen inside, actually.
They were secretly the Yeti all along. While this plan is going on, Edis is like, this is dumb. I don't like it. I'm gonna blow up this lance and kill everyone.
Just everyone. He's really, not fucking around.
So much is he not fucking around that he's, sneaking around. He's, sees all these miners cooperating. He's like, what's going on? And the other miner, has to, pull him to the side. And he's like, calm down. It's a part of a plan. It's cool. It's fine. Don't do anything rash and stupid. And then Edis is like, what? And then stabs the miner. He stabs the miner who told him to calm down.
I'm sorry, did you say do something rash and stupid? How about this?
I don't think he kills him, but he definitely stabs him.
Yeah, I think he was threatening to, tell somebody about Edis's plan. And so he's like, nope, can't do it, and stabs him.
Because he's like, I'm gonna go blow up the lance, and the miner's like, what? No, I gotta go tell Gebek about
our
this.
own people are there, don't do that. And he's like, yeah, but they're people I don't care for, so.
Stabby. Finally, I get to stab someone. That's what Edis's whole life revolves around. But yeah, the Ice Warriors start getting groggy because of the heat. The higher up Ice Warriors, who I don't think are in that room, are sort of wary of this. everybody's cooperating a little too easily. It seems a little fishy. But the miner who did get stabbed does tell Gebek, and he's not doing great, but he tells Gebek what Edis is doing. Gebek tells the doctor, and the doctor's going to go stop Edis. And Sarah stays behind to help the guy who's been stabbed, but immediately gets captured by an ice warrior.
This part's interesting to me. It's like when you see where Edis is, he's like miles away from the Citadel, but it takes them just like a jaunt to go through the tunnels to get there. He's just like, oh, you just go down this corridor, take a left, and you'll be right there.
He literally does give directions like that.
Yeah.
He gives directions just like that. And then you'll be there. And I'm like, wait, are you hitting like a temporal nexus point or something? Because all of a sudden the doctor's there, and I'm like, wait, that's like, a couple hours jog.
What's great about it, too, is when Gebek is like, I will go and do it. And the doctor's like, no, I'll do it. But Gebek's like, but I know the way. And the doctor's like, well, just tell me the way. And I was expecting like a complicated thing. And he basically is just like straight and to the left. That's it.
You're going to see that one stalagmite. That's where you're going to turn.
And then you're there, basically.
It just cracks me up because they're obviously like in a completely different part of it's on another mountain. But it's just like, you're just like, oh yeah, okay, you're here. That's all right. It's not that far away. Wait a minute. Like, how do physics work on this?
But the doctor does get to Edis. Basically, he's like, hey, don't do this. And Edis is like, no, gonna. And they get into a sword fight.
It's a pretty good sword fight.
Yeah.
Of the sword fights we have.
Meanwhile, Sarah is talking to the Ice Warriors, tells them what's happening. And the Ice Warriors are watching it on the cameras. And they're like, it's cool. If anyone tries to use the lance,
it'll just explode.
It'll self-destruct.
And I think that was Eckersley that said that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think because Eckersley is probably the one who did it.
Yeah. Sarah Jane's like, but that could kill the doctor. They're like,
whatever. Again, we've all tried to kill him multiple times, so none of us are very worried about it.
Edis headbutts the doctor and eventually gets the upper hand and turns on the lance, and it explodes him. It explodes and Edis just disappears from existence. And the doctor's been knocked down to the side, so we don't know if he's been hurt as well. And that's the cliffhanger.
This is also a question I have. Like, why is there a camera on that other mountain? Like, in that exact place where they're like, oh, you can aim the lance from this place. Eckersley was really, really into, he was like a voyeur or something. He was like, maybe someone comes up here for things, and I'll have a camera here. He has cameras all over that place.
It's true, nothing else is really there. It's not like they took it to a place where, something else was. It's just an empty bit of cave that's all the way across from where anything else is.
That is a very good point. I never really questioned the geography of everything, but you are not wrong.
Well, it's one of I don't usually, think like that when I'm doing these things, but I guess I've watched it so many times, I was like, I'm gonna look at this with a different eye. But yeah, oh man, there's all kinds of, these weird little intricacies that you're like, wait a minute, there's no, one door into the mines. Apparently there's, a time vortex in the middle of the mines that will take you to another part of the planet. It's unreal.
And just cameras everywhere, conveniently.
Eckersley, that pervert.
I mean, have you seen his outfit? I'm just saying. But we are now into episode 5, which I have called Death to the Doctor, because presumably the Doctor is dead. This is the longest recap out of all of them, I feel like. Either this one or the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember where it picks up, but it's I think it starts way back with Sarah Jane.
I think we get the sword fight again.
Yeah, I think we get the whole sword fight, which is not as good a sword fight as that really long recap with the Doctor and the Master and the Sea Devils.
Oh,
That one was great. That one I didn't mind seeing twice. This one is just okay. I believe they fixed the heating problem at some point, but now there's going to be a new problem, which is, the Ice Warrior asks Eckersley to turn off the air in the mines, which is not cool.
People need that to breathe.
Sarah Jane doesn't know Eckersley is bad at this point because she's trying to tell him the doctor's probably dead. This is bad. And he's like, well, shouldn't have gotten involved in politics.
Shouldn't have gotten involved in local politics. That's what he says.
But the doctor's fine. He's not dead. And,
What?
What?
I thought for sure he'd be dead this time.
Soon.
Oh no, don't say it. I'm not ready.
We got one more, Tony. But he meets up with Gebek. They talk about the air problem. And the doctor's like, oh, this all sucks. But hey, where's Sarah Jane? The person you were supposed to keep an eye on, Gebek. And Gebek's like, she gone. I don't know what happened to her. But Alpha, meanwhile, has figured out a way to send a basic SOS out to the real Federation.
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't trust these Ice Warriors. Sarah Jane and the Queen and everybody are in the throne room. They're being watched by the Ice Warriors. There's an Ice Warrior guard. And they come up with this whole plan. They're like, there's a secret passage, but we need to distract the guard.
Oh,
but they don't use the secret passage at all?
Well, I think they say, well, there's a secret passage, but we need to get to the communication room. This scene has another weird inconsistency in it.
My big problem is, so the Queen pretends to be sick to distract the guard because they're going to run out to the
But they just kind of shove him over.
Yeah, they just barely push him. And Sarah Jane pushes him right onto the Queen. Like, aim better. At the same time, Ortron gets shot by the Ice Warrior. And dies, right?
Yeah. And the Queen doesn't care that much. Like, she's upset at first, but...
There's I feel like they were trying to do this whole, the sort of scene with the King and Hepish, sort of a parallel to that, but it doesn't come off as well.
Again, I just don't think she emotes with her face enough.
At this point, the Ice Lord comes in, as Exir is his name. So all this is happening, and Alpha Centauri and Sarah Jane run out of the throne room, right? The Ice Lord comes in and said, where is Alpha Centauri? Like, he had to have passed her in the hallway.
Maybe he went through a different sort of time nexus thing.
Yeah.
I guess so, but, like, as soon as they kill Ortron, he comes in and goes, where's Alpha Centauri? The Queen really should have been like, you had to have just seen her, or him, or they, or it. Like, right there. Like, same door. Like, not 10 seconds ago.
He actually just walked through a door on the other side of the planet and ended up at that door. That's just how the planet works.
The perilous paths of Peladon.
He walked through a door that was behind a tapestry.
It's like, I really thought this would lead me into the mines. I'm so confused.
Now I'm in the throne room. Oh, well, I guess I better, put on my gruff voice.
I was just looking for the bathroom. None of these doors make sense.
Meanwhile, the Doctor and Gebek are going to the refinery to go in there, but I think the Ice Warriors are coming after them as well.
Eckersley and the Ice Warriors are in the refinery. The Doctor and Gebek are listening to them outside, and Sarah and Alpha Centauri are watching them on the camera from the communications room.
While also Alpha is trying to send out that SOS.
So, and that's right, because the Queen told Azixir that they went into the tunnels to rally with the miners, to basically give them a chance to do the SOS thing. That's what it was. The Sarah is watching this from one angle, the Doctor's listening from one angle, and then he peeks in. And Sarah sees that he's still alive, because Sarah thought he was dead at this point.
And this is also where they find out for sure that Eckersley is 100% bad, and that they are shipping the trisilicate to Galaxy 5.
And they are being the spirit of Agador.
Yeah, they say that the miners are not moving fast enough, so they're going to use Agador to sort of make them go fast. Which the thing is, whenever they use Agador, it stops the miners from working. Like, they're like, oh no, Agador doesn't like us doing this. Well, let's stop. I don't understand what the plan is here to get more trisilicate. By stopping them from mining?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I'm just now realizing that I don't understand what they're doing.
Their plan's not the best plan.
Because that's the first thing they do. They Agador a miner. Agador is a verb. So yeah, but Sarah Jane does see the Doctor peeking in his head, and she rushes to go join the Doctor and help him.
She was devastated too.
Yeah, because there was a whole scene with her and the Queen's sort of comforting her when she thinks that the Doctor is dead.
The Queen's like, people die around me all the time.
Just happens. Get used to it. But there's this whole thing of Eckersley can't set the rainbow alarm on the door because the Doctor messed it up. Because they're leaving the refinery, Eckersley and the Ice Warriors. And he's like, I can't really set that back up. They're going to go reset it up. He can't do it locally, but he can do it from the communications room. The doctor and Gebek talk about it, like, how far away is it? And they're like, it's about 5 minutes. And he's like, well, I guess I got 5 minutes.
No, he said 5, maybe 10, which seems like a big what if.
I don't understand how time works in Peladon.
It's 10 unless the, portal is in the right place that day.
But there is an ice warrior on guard outside the refinery, which
is Big Head Ice Warrior.
And Sarah Jane accidentally causes a diversion. She wasn't purposely causing a diversion. She just came up and there was an ice warrior there, and it distracted him enough that they could knock him out. They drop a big rock on his head, right?
Yep, big rock on big old head.
And then the doctor lies. He says something about how he normally enjoys the quiet life.
Because I think Sarah Jane says something about how, this is just what it's like with you. And he's like, hey, if I could, go to the beach and hang out, I would.
Now that I buy.
He's like, if I would love to live the quiet life. And everybody within earshot rolls their eyes.
But the doctor sonics the alarm again, and they get in the door mechanism and get into the refinery. Then the Ice Warriors realize that Alpha was sending an SOS.
Tell him that he shouldn't have done that.
And the Alpha also tells the Queen about the Ice Warriors and Eckersley being bad. Okay, so they get the door open. They turn the air back on. The doctor's like, I'm going to try to figure out how to work this Agador machine. And then the Ice Warrior comes back because they find out they want Sarah Jane, and Alpha's like, Sarah Jane went to the refinery. Which, boo Alpha for just giving up Sarah Jane like that.
Alpha gives up a lot of information in this movie really easily. They're just like, Alpha! And she's like, okay, she's in the refinery.
I think, Alpha panics a lot, which is not good for, an ambassador, right?
She really needs some Xanax. I wonder how she ever became an ambassador. Because she's probably just selling all these people out because she's afraid they're going to kill her.
I think Alpha's in the wrong line of work.
Well, I'll tell you, she could never work for the United States.
That's probably true.
She could never. It would be horrible.
It'd be a panic attack every minute.
So the Galactic Federation either really was like, we gotta get rid of her. Let's put her on the most backwater planet there is. Or she's just working out her retirement deal.
But at this point, the Ice Warriors go back to the refinery. They can't get into the refinery because the door is locked. And they start shooting it with heat beams. Would that mess with the Ice Warriors at all, since they don't like heat?
Well, I think they're using their sonic disruptor beams. They're using it on, melt setting or something. And
we find out that Eckersley's motivation, which is he just wants that trisilicate money. And he wants to rule Earth.
You would hope that he at least had, something a little better than that. But no, he's just a mustache-twirling villain. Which, to be fair, is my favorite kind of villain. But still. He's just they're going to give me all of the or a percentage of the trisilicate, and I'll rule the Earth.
But that basically is the cliffhanger, is the Ice Warriors shooting that door up. And we are now in episode 6, which I have called The Revenge of Agador. So the doctor figures out how to work the Agador machine and uses it on the Ice Warriors, which... Did he just straight up kill those Ice Warriors?
Yeah, he totally did, without any real hesitation.
And see, this is what leads me to love the classic series so much.
Murder?
Well, not so much murder. But this idea of the Doctor as a pacifist is really a new series thing. Now, he wasn't a villain, he wasn't a horrible guy, but he would do whatever it took to do the right thing. Not that I'm a huge fan of him killing people, but those are the kinds of things that happen in the classic series.
I mean, they happen in New Who, too, occasionally.
They do, but it's usually not the Doctor that's pulling the trigger, and they usually try to make a point of that.
I feel and I've only seen a couple episodes of him, but I feel 5 is maybe where that first kind of started.
It is. I mean, you start seeing that there, but I don't think it was a conscious decision either way. It's just one of those things that in the earlier days, the Doctor would punch a guy or send Agador to kill a ton of people.
Or the first Doctor wanting to hit a dude over the head with a rock.
Or the second Doctor sink an entire city and just hope everyone gets out okay.
Well, I mean, the first Doctor basically incites a riot with the Thals versus the Daleks. I mean, he's just you, Ian, take that lady to the Daleks, and they just clock him. And they're like, oh, see, you will protect yourself for some things. And that whole thing, so... It's a thing.
Okay, I don't mind him killing people. I don't really like it when the Doctor uses a gun specifically, though, for some reason.
I think that's weird.
I don't know. It is.
I feel like if you either have to be against guns and murder beams, or you have to be against both or neither. It's...
Well, I felt a little weird about him just straight up murdering these Ice Warriors, too, so...
I honestly didn't think about it. Like, it just isn't something that, like, struck me. But you're right. It definitely is just, like, murdering Ice Warriors. Basically, they kill off every Ice Warrior in the city. Or on the planet. With this Agador device. And he's kind of having fun doing it.
He's got, like, a drone going around, basically.
And during this time is when Eckersley has, like, turned on the rainbow beams inside the room.
And the Doctor is basically struggling to stay conscious.
But he makes sure he kills every one of those Ice Warriors before he does.
He's also sent Gebek out with a plan so Gebek's not in there. It's just the Doctor. Basically, the plan is we're going to get the miners on Gebek's side, because they've basically been like, they're panicking and running around, or they've been like confused by Edis and everything. And basically they're going to use Agador to get the miners to do whatever Gebek says, which is, so, because Gebek's like, Agador's on our side, and the miners like, well, no. And then the Doctor turns on the machine. This is actually before the Eckersley turns on the alarms, because, there's that great scene, because he's like, Agador's on our side. Just look over here. And then, like, they all stare at nothing. And then it cuts to the Doctor, and he's like, I hope our watches are synced up correctly.
Our timing works out, right?
And, now. And he turns on Agador. But the old miner's like, what are we...
What are we waiting for? So something's supposed to happen?
Just keep looking. It'll happen, I swear.
And it does, and it's cool.
And then all the miners get on board with the plan. So they're like, we have Agador on our side. There's no way we can lose now. And that's when the security system gets turned on, and the Doctor is bombarded with rainbows. But he continues to use the Agador machine.
The Agador machine.
I don't know what it's called.
I like the Agador machine.
But basically a lot of fighting happens. Ice Warriors are getting Agador. The miners are fighting the Ice Warriors. Everybody's taking care of business. And but the Doctor collapses, and Sarah Jane, meanwhile, has found one of the guns on one of the dead bodies, takes it and pulls it on Eckersley in the communication rooms, and he turns off the rainbows because she's going to shoot him if he doesn't. But he gets the gun back from Sarah Jane and then runs away. He gets shot, right? A miner runs into him and shoots him, or does the miner get shot? The miner gets shot. Yeah.
He tricks him. He pulls up his one hand like he's gonna punch him, and then he pulls the gun up from behind and shoots him. It's really bizarre looking. If you, like, that would be a good GIF. Like, if him just going, boom, boom!
I have not GIFed that episode yet, but I will keep that in mind. Does he run away with Sarah Jane?
No, she stays in the communication room and cries because she sees the Doctor dead again. In the matter of 2 episodes.
Oh, she's really having a rough day.
Because, somewhere in the back of her mind is, crap, if the Doctor's gone, I have to stay on this planet.
That would suck, being, like, so far away from home.
It's like, all I want is some central heat.
We already broke that.
Central heat, maybe a planet where I don't have to explain what women's lib is. One of the two. Not picky.
She seemed to enjoy the food on the planet, though, so that's one thing. Like, I was jiffing the first or second episode, and there's that scene where they're having the tea time, and she's just, like, going to town on, like, this weird-looking biscuit.
Going to town on this weird-looking biscuit.
She seemed to enjoy it. So, the miners make it to the Queen. The Ice Warrior has a gun on her, and then the fighting happens, and the Ice Warrior gets stabbed. And the Queen tells Alpha to talk to the Federation. Then Sarah Jane goes to the refinery room.
She has, like, a big moment where she's like, I gotta go see him.
Because it's the dead Doctor, and she wants to go be sad over him. So she leaves to go do that. Basically, they're cleaning everything up. Sort of like everything's like, well, we're done here. The Ice Warriors are defeated. But Eckersley is hiding around, and he pulls a gun on the Queen.
It's like, I'm getting out of here.
Knocks out Alpha, too. Which is rude.
Well, wait, so we missed something. The whole scene where Azixir, they make him kill the other Ice Warrior, like, that whole thing happens before Eckersley runs away.
Right, yeah, that's at the sort of the end of it's during all the fighting that happens.
So they're in the throne room, and an Ice Warrior is there, and then how does Gebek, I think, ends up killing him with a sword? But they basically hold him back and force him to kill the other Ice Warrior.
Oh,
right, yeah.
So at that point, all the Ice Warriors are dead, and then it leads up to this whole thing with Eckersley.
Eckersley is the big bad, and he takes the queen hostage and knocks out Alpha, and then runs off through the secret passage in the throne room. Runs off through that, and he's like, "I'm gonna find my ship, and we're gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna use you as a hostage, so I can not get killed on my escape." Sarah Jane goes and is crying over the doctor's dead body, and her tears fall on his face.
And he wakes up.
He's like, what was that?
Ah, gross.
And we once again get Pertwee eyes. I do want you guys to keep, without any spoilers, keep this scene in mind when you do the next story. Make a note of that. Keep it in mind.
Interesting.
I'm concerned. I've actually seen parts of the next story before.
You've watched all the regenerations.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know why I did that, but when I first started, was like, I want to know stuff about Classic Who. I went through and I watched just the regeneration episode of every Doctor. I don't really remember it. It was a long time ago.
Well, it is related to that regeneration, but yeah. So keep this scene in mind. It actually almost calls back. Almost. I think it's unintentional, but it happens.
But he says, I was in a trance. I put my body, because it was attacking my mind, so I just shut it all down for a little while. And then she's kind of mad at him, and he's like, it seems like you would have preferred me to be dead.
She's like, well, listen, this is the second time today. It's getting exhausting grieving you and then not grieving you.
But they all sort of arrive back at the throne room and find Alpha all knocked out and stuff, and Alpha wakes up and says that Eckersley took the queen into the tunnels. And they're like, he could be anywhere. But the doctor's like, I have an idea. And it's a great idea. The doctor gets Agador, the real Agador. They basically use Agador as a dog.
Yeah, sniff him out.
Hunt down track the scent. So, but Agador gets on the scent and tracks him down. They find Eckersley. He's, got the queen all in a headlock or whatever, and she bites him. And then Agador attacks Eckersley, and then he basically dies, but in his dying moments, shoots Agador, and they both die. And I am really mad that the pupper died.
Yeah.
How dare you, Eckersley? It's rude. He's just a puppy.
Here's the thing that I wish would have happened. It's kind of off the camera, it's below the camera, but the doctor goes and checks, and he checks Eckersley first, and then checks Agador. I wish he would have only checked Agador and just been like, Agador didn't make it. But no, he does the right thing and checks Eckersley to make sure he's is or isn't okay.
And he isn't. He's dead. Everybody's fine now, I guess. Except for the people who died.
Except for all those dead people.
Which is half the kingdom. Those poor miners. They just died in droves. It would be 7 at a time.
We also lost the champion and a good handful of guards, too, I'd say.
And all those Ice Warriors.
Ortron, too. There's a lot of death in this serial.
There's this scene where Eckersley takes the queen through the mines. And you see all the dead people on the ground. And she goes, you did this. And then he just grabs her and starts running again.
Yeah, there's just a small moment.
The other thing about this is the music cues. Because it was switching between the Doctor and et al. Kind of following the trail with Agador, and it would switch to Eckersley and the Queen. And every time Eckersley and the Queen would come on, it would be furious bongo music. And then it would just stop, and it would go back to Agador and the Doctor and everything, and they would be like, they must have went this way. And then it would snap again, it would cut to the next scene, and it was just furious bongo music again. And then it would stop when they would Eckersley and the Queen would start talking, and then it would just start up again, and they'd run out of the gate. The music cues on that is hilarious.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rewatch that scene.
So, but now that everything's wrapped, is sort of winding down, the Queen asks the Doctor to be the new Chancellor, and he's like, nah, but who'd be great at it? I've not mentioned him enough. Gebek. And she's like, yeah, all right, why not? And also we find out that, because of all this, Galaxy 5 now wants
They
peace.
just quit.
Yeah, they're like,
They're just like, yeah, this plan didn't work. We're going to negotiate. Hundreds of people are dead. We lost our entire Ice Warrior army. There you go.
That makes sense. Cut your losses. So then goodbyes are said. The miners have found the TARDIS. Basically, they go back to the TARDIS, and Sarah Jane's sort of teasing the Doctor. I don't remember exactly what she says, but whatever she says annoys the Doctor, and he grabs her by the ear and drags her into the TARDIS.
And that's the end of the story.
That is the end of the Monster of Peladon.
The story that has so much stuff about feminism in it has the Doctor dragging her in the TARDIS by the ear at the end of it.
Yeah, it is a little cute, though.
I mean, I've had it.
Oh, sure. Sure, I just think that's ironic that it's this story.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and like you said, part of it is that they had, like, that big moment, and then, like, that character never really grew.
It's kind of like the writer's like, I want to say this thing, but then not. I just want to say it.
I just want to say it. I don't want to have to do it.
But we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for final thoughts.
Are you looking for a podcast that's a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit crazy, and a little bit on the rambunctious side? Well, if I got something for you, it's called Vitamin Geek Podcast. My name's Corey Keelan. I'm the host and creator of Vitamin Geek Podcast, and I'm here to invite you to listen to my show. Each episode, I'm coming to you with whatever I think is important at the time. Maybe it's a new movie, maybe it's a comic book, maybe it's horror, maybe it's drag queens. Who knows? I love to talk, and I just love to get you guys involved in the conversation. I invite you all to check out my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Vitamin Geek Podcast. I would love to hear your feedback. So please join me and check us out here, Vitamin Geek Podcast, here on the ESO Network.
And we're back. You know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
All right. So, Ashley, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, so I love these stories, the Peladon stories. There's something really fun about them. In watching it this time, I found a lot of things I had never noticed before. Some of the inconsistencies with dialogue versus where they are versus those kinds of things. But you know what? That's one of the things I love about Doctor Who. It may not always stand up to scrutiny, but it's always fun. And this story is a fun story. It is a story where where at least I am always willing to turn off my mind and just enjoy it. There isn't a lot going on that might really make you think so much, but it is really fun. And you get to see the Ice Warriors, you get to see Peladon again, you get to see Alpha Centauri, who of course I love. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun story. It's just a story that I enjoy, and I love kind of coming back to all of these Peladon stories, all two of them, and I just enjoy it quite a bit.
I agree. I think the first half of this is weaker than the second half because I feel like the first half is almost too similar to The Curse of Peladon. But it is kind of cool to see it's basically a straight up sequel. It's almost like, it's First Doctor serial where you have that first half, I think it was the Ark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first half that's with the monoids and everything, and then the second half is so many years later when the roles have reversed and everything, and that's sort of what's happening here in a way, specifically with the Ice Warriors. But once the Ice Warriors kick in, it's a lot more interesting, it's a lot more fun. The dynamics change up a bit because it could have just been Ortron being the bad guy, sort of like Hepish was in a way, just following that same route. But then things get changed up enough. And I like the idea of halfway through, they're like, we all need to just cooperate instead of fighting because there's a bigger bad coming and we need to team up against that. And I kind of enjoy that idea. The Ice Warriors are great. It's great to see Alpha again. I feel like Sarah Jane is written better this time around than she was in the last serial, so I'm glad about that. There's a lot of good stuff. It's not as good as Curse of Peladon, but it's still really good. It's still really fun. Mm-hmm. And you got some interesting designs in there too, so...
This particular serial, first of all, Curse of Peladon I really enjoyed. So I was, really excited to watch this one. It's fun. I mean, all this, a lot of the stuff that I enjoyed about the first one is here. You know, the great costumes and the ridiculous hair and some of the characters that I really enjoyed.
Alpha!
Yeah, there's enough there to, enjoy. It's a fun enough episode. It could have been Meteor? No, Meteor. Especially, and I feel like it could be done really easily. I feel like there's enough there So, like, you kind of, like I said, you have the Ice Warriors who are always interesting to me because they're kind of gray, and you have them being more just people, and some of them are bad and some of them are good, and that's an interesting idea. You have the Federation, and we kind of explored, like, the good parts of the Federation, and now sometimes, like, it doesn't always work out. And that's interesting. Like, it seems like some of the more substantive bits didn't really get enough time, didn't get explored enough. But that's okay. Like, it's still a pretty good serial, and you know, I enjoyed it a lot.
It was also an interesting follow-up, because like what you were saying specifically about what the themes of the Curse of Peladon, and then like the sort of, what you said, globalization and all that, and then the second one being like, what about the miners, basically.
Yeah, it seems like it has helped certain higher classes, but more than lower classes, and they're not happy. Yeah, and I would have liked to have seen more of that.
Yeah.
I mean, then that's definitely there, don't get me wrong.
I wish it hadn't fallen into the trope that happens a lot of, there's the one leader who is, you know,
who's rash and wants to kill everything. And I mean, the Doctor literally calls the other guy a moderate, which is kind of interesting.
Like, Gebek and Edis is like a very common duo
in Doctor
Who, of like the guy who is level-headed and clear-thinking leader, and then the guy who's like, I want to punch things. It happens a lot.
It's a pretty solid episode. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
So before we go, anything you'd like to plug?
Honestly, I'm not doing a ton right now. We have Hulanta coming up in May. I'm doing a piece in Alan Seiler's new book that he's putting out. I'm going to be writing about Adric. I'm in the process of writing that particular book. It's a book about companions. Writing that piece, just a short essay. Beyond that, I'm not doing a ton right now. I'm kind of taking some time off from doing things, and I'm kind of in between things. I'm working on some gaming things, and like another thing I'm doing, working on a role-playing game called The Gun Belt. Hopefully we'll start kickstarting that soon. It's not Doctor Who related, just another thing that I do in another part of my life.
Sounds cool.
And also, you said it's still up, so go check out The Ongoing Storm as well.
Yeah, it is still up. I don't plan on taking it down anytime soon. And like I said, we may be back sooner than later. We may have other things to do. We may have kind of projects related to that. I've been toying around with another podcast idea. I'm just not quite there yet.
And of course, you'll be back for future episodes of the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon. We've already got the Fourth Doctor scheduled out.
I don't even remember all the ones I'm doing, but I know that I signed up for a few.
We have guests scheduled out for like years.
Yeah. Four's going to be a big thing to tackle.
Well, I think that's the one everyone wants to really do. You know, everyone wants to get in on that. So there's some really good stories in that. I'm excited that I got on at least a few of the ones that I really wanted to get on. So I'm excited. I can't wait for that to come back up.
It'll be fun to be total newbies coming into it and experience it for the first time.
And also it'll be fun for me talking about something that's not the Ice Warriors. So, which is typically where my expertise tends to land, but I don't even remember all the stories. I think I'm doing Robots of Death, and then Logopolis at the end, and then a few other ones. But yeah, I'm really excited about because all the Fourth Doctor is almost like the Beatles. You know, they put out all these albums, and there are some that may not be as good as others, but they're all good in their own way. That's kind of the way I think of the Fourth Doctor.
I like that. The Fourth Doctor is the Beatles. If you like this episode, you can check out more on watchyourrassilon.com. Be sure to rate and comment on our iTunes. It helps us get on chart thingies. I don't understand all of its magic science.
Yeah, it does use magic and science to help us get seen more by more people.
So go do that. If you'd like to help us out even more, you can go to watchyourrassilon.com/support, and there you'll find a link to our Patreon page, which you can get to just by going to patreon.com/watchathon, and there you can donate a monthly amount to get all kinds of rewards, like day early episodes, uncut video of the podcast records, and now we're doing live streams where we watch the episodes and you can watch with us and see our real-time reactions to big-headed Ice Warriors.
I would just like to say again, those have been super fun. I have learned a lot from doing them. Everybody always chimes in with some interesting trivia or something. Like, why was that like that? And like, inevitably somebody in the chat knows.
It also helps when we're like, wait, did I miss something? And they'll be like, yes, you missed this.
So those are fun. Come join us.
Yes. And also on our support page is a link to our Amazon wish list where you can sponsor an episode of the podcast by purchasing the corresponding serial on DVD for us. We'll mention you in the podcast and put your name on our Friends of Rassilon page. Speaking of, special thanks again to Matt Golden of mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com for sponsoring this episode.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
And tune in next time when we talk about the final third Doctor serial, not counting the 5 Doctors, Planet of the Spiders, which will have a new guest on, Nathan Laws of the 42 cast.
Ooh.
Stick around for that. Keep calm and Rassilon.
Yeah, do that.
See you soon.
Come and tickle his ear, Sarah.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network, your station for all things geek. Classic, current, and beyond. Be part of the crew at ESONetwork.com.